So you're a real estate developer who wants to put on the old GC hat, huh? Well, how do you do it without totally sucking and screwing the whole thing up? Here are 8 lessons that I think will help you not completely blow it. Let's discuss. I'm on site, oh shoot, they're trying to finish and they need a couple more pieces of flashing, and I run to Home Depot and I grab it and I bring it to them. Hey, lesson learned, but learned the expensive way, right? Why is there one guy here? I'm like, well, when he's done, you know, these other guys will come in. He goes, no, get everybody in here, they're fine. So last week, we talked about the pros and cons of developing versus building. Should I just develop and let somebody else take care of the general contractor work, or should I go ahead and get a license and build for myself and, in theory, potentially have more control over the build process, the timeline, the budget, etc. So if you watched that video and you decided, I think I want to try that, I'm going to build for myself, well, then the next logical follow-up question is, how? How do we avoid some of the cons that I mentioned in that video, or at least maybe minimize some of those cons moving forward and actually have the decision to be your own GC something that is beneficial to your business? How do we avoid being over budget or way behind schedule or buying, crappy materials or hiring crappy subs? So that's what we're gonna go over today, is how do you make that switch to building for yourself with minimal damage? And stay tuned, at the very end, I got an extra tip, number 9, I got a bonus for you that has made me $20,000 just without doing anything, just extra money on the side. It's an easy one, so stay tuned for that. It's coming at the end. Let's get to business. All right, guys, so we are here in a job that I'm building on the west side of Nashville on Basswood Avenue. 2 houses on 1 lot. Hopefully we're a month and a half away from completion. You can't really tell right now, but we're getting there. So if you are, like me, a developer who wants to start building for yourself and you've decided you're gonna take that plunge, then here's a few lessons that I think will make a difference for you. I know that some of them would have made a difference for me, and some of them did make a difference for me. Number 1, you've got to work from a budget from day one. Now that sounds like a no-brainer, and to a degree I did, but to be honest with you, the budget was pretty loose because I just didn't know. And I probably skipped some important steps in terms of really finding out concrete answers to what is this gonna cost? What is that gonna cost? What are some extras maybe that I'm not thinking about? So I would encourage you, first of all, when you're putting together your first budget, man, this is one of the more arduous parts of the process, but you've gotta take the time to pick up the phone and make those calls. Call builders who are friends of yours to ask them questions. Call subcontractors and vendors and suppliers and get some firm answers on what it's gonna cost. It's gonna take you a ton of time and a ton of energy to do this the first time and begin to get some things in place. As an example, you need to know, okay, I'm building this floor plan. We've got 2,000 square feet of red oak hardwood. You gotta call and you gotta find out the cost of that hardwood. And then you gotta call your sub and you gotta find out, hey, what are you gonna charge me to install this hardwood and to do a sand and finish? We're gonna do 2 or 3 coats and then 2 coats of poly or whatever. You've gotta take the time to make those calls, get multiple bids, and start to really dial in those costs. And I wanna prep you. It's time intensive, it's laborious, but it is worth it. In addition, you have to have a system to keep track of budget to actual. So I budgeted $7,000 for hardwood floors, X, Y, and Z came up. We ended up spending $8,000, great. Now I know I'm $1,000 over budget. You also have to have a system that allows for you to pay subcontractors on the fly in the field, so not everything's gonna be done every single time through a really rigid system where I go through QuickBooks and we do this and we approve the invoice or whatever. If you're a smaller company like me, things are gonna happen on the fly. You have to be a little bit agile. You also have to have a system that allows for you to buy and track the purchase of materials on the fly. I'm on site, oh shoot, they're trying to finish and they need a couple more pieces of flashing, and I run to Home Depot and I grab it and I bring it to them. I gotta have a way to keep track of that and make sure that doesn't fall through the cracks. Also have a system that accounts for the fact that you're gonna have multiple charges for single line items on your budget. So your budget might say hardwood floor material, hardwood floor labor, and I got these 2 things. And then it turns out, oh shoot, I bought all the hardwood flooring and I put it in, I forgot to get my wooden vents. So I run out and I buy those. Now I've got 2 charges for one line item. Oh shoot, we came up one vent short. I go out buy one more. Now I've got 3 charges for the line item. And then they're doing sand and finish for labor, and they say, oh, we had to make a change order because we had to fix this thing, or we had to come back a second time because you forgot this and it's an extra $200. Now I got multiple charges per line item. You've got to have a way to track that, keep them under the right line item, knowing that at times it's not just gonna be a flat, okay, here's one charge for the material and one charge for the labor. Just very frequently that's not the case. Item number 2, another no-brainer, except I gotta say it, work from a schedule from day one. The schedule has to have some flexibility. I can promise you that you will never do a build where the schedule doesn't change, things don't get pushed back. On my schedule, I start to add bits and pieces that will make me a little better next time. So as a perfect example, recently we got ready to block, and the guys showed up to do block on a new foundation, and they went, hey, where's your temporary water spigot? I'm like, I'm an idiot. Like, I don't have one, I forgot. So now, on my schedule, it says, block, here's the things you need to have. Do you have temporary water? Is temporary power set up? X, Y, and Z, is grading done? Whatever. And so I like to not only have a schedule, but each item says, in order for this item on the schedule to happen, X, Y, and Z has to be in place. There's a lot of scheduling tools. I'm not gonna recommend any single one because frankly, I've bounced around. I've used my own spreadsheets. I've used a couple different online platforms, and I have not landed on something that is just the greatest answer yet. I'm still playing around trying to figure out which one is my favorite. I've used a few. Right now I'm playing around with something called Rational Plan. That's not an endorsement. I'm trying a lot of different things. I will tell you, your schedule needs to be agile. It's nice if you can have those like cause and effect where like as soon as I finish this, it automatically says this comes next, or this isn't ready and it'll say you can't do this because this isn't complete. It's nice to be able to create those, whether you build it in a spreadsheet or you use some sort of software or software that's in the cloud or that kind of thing. Bottom line is you've got to have a schedule. My 2 cents, man, I used to do a bad job of pushing numerous subs to be working at once, and it'd be like, well, I'll get them out once this guy's done. And that made us take a lot longer. And finally, my brother-in-law, who has built for years, we went to a job site. He was like, why is there one guy here? I'm like, well, when he's done, these other guys will come in. He goes, no, get everybody in here. They're fine. Sure enough, he was right. Everybody was fine. We were rocking and rolling. Item number 3, I mentioned this with the schedule. This takes purposeful work and paying attention. You've got to have somewhere to make these notes. If it's not on your schedule, it's got to be somewhere else to capture this, because again, it happens on the fly. You've got to become familiar with what each step requires in order to be complete. Like, we need temporary water spigot in order to do block. We need temporary power, ideally, in order to frame. Otherwise, they're gonna bring out a generator and charge me an extra $500, right? We need to have them come out and field measure for cabinets as soon as framing is done so they can get working on those. We need cabinets in order for the granite guys to come out and template and then build the granite and bring it out. There's so many pieces that rely on a step before it, and a lot of them are obvious and a lot of them are kind of sneaky. So my 2 cents is have a place to capture that, continue to familiarize yourself with it. Early on when you're building your schedule, find a template schedule. There's a ton of them online, or even better, go to a builder that somebody you trust, that they're good at this, and talk through it with them and ask them that question in particular. What has to be in place for my block guys to come out? What has to be in place for my HVAC guys to do their rough-in, or for the roof to be ready, or whatever, and start to fill in those blanks as much as possible. That will slow you down. And something a friend of mine said recently, I was bemoaning some of the challenges I've had. He said, well, hey, if you're getting faster, at least you can finish your build 2-3 months sooner. And when he said this, and it was like so obvious, he goes, and when you save the money on those carrying costs, like that's real money that stays in your pocket. And it just clicked, right? I'm like, oh yeah. If I'm paying, $3,000-4,000 a month on a construction loan, and I finish 3 months earlier, that's $12,000. That's real money. This stuff will hold you up, so do your best to very proactively familiarize yourself with what steps are contingent upon what other steps. Number 4, and if you are really, really talented in this area, then you might be the exception, but let's assume you're not. Work with a designer from day one. Now, you can get a wide range of service from designers. On smaller projects, I just get an inspiration board. So they don't link to products, they don't buy products for me. They just give me an inspiration board that says, here's basically the finishes you want. We want chrome in here with white cabinets, and we want a stone that looks something like this for the granite countertops. Here's a couple examples of lighting fixtures you could use. And then I go out and I buy them, and I pay, you know, maybe $1,000 to $2,000 for this design inspiration board that allows me then to do the legwork. On the flip side, you can pay somebody not just for design, but to actually select every specific lighting fixture. They go to, you know, I don't know, rejuvenation.com and buy the lighting fixture with your card and have it shipped for you, and you're doing none of that. You're gonna pay a lot more for that. And depending on the house and the price point, it might make sense. It also, of course, depends on your skill set. Do you have a really spectacular design eye? The truth is, my design eye is not terrible, but it's not great. And I run into too many circumstances where I'm like, I think I have an idea, I'm just not sure. I'm not really sure it's gonna look good. It might, and maybe 60, 70% of the time it would work. For me, it saves me a lot of time and a lot of brain power of doing something that I'm just okay at, to just delegate it and pay somebody to know they're gonna do it really well, and I don't have to wonder or worry that the final product isn't gonna look good. Well, as usual, we're gonna take a quick break in the middle here. I like to call this intermission. We're back in my office, and hey, if you are serious about learning how to develop, and this is something you really wanna try, I've got a few different ways that you can sort of dip your toe in the water. It depends on how serious you are in terms of getting more information and really checking this thing out. So option number one, this book is $10 on Amazon. I know, $10 gonna really break the bank. This is a surface level. This is kindergarten and first grade, okay? So if you're really serious, I mean, snag it, it's worth 10 bucks anyway. There's some good little tips and tricks, but you wanna go deeper. But if you're just curious, you just like, maybe this could be cool, I don't know, I wanna hear a little more about it, go to Amazon, grab this book. I don't know how many I've sold. It's not enough to make me rich. This is not a money-making ploy for me. It's just a way for you to scratch the surface a little bit. Now, if you want to take it a little bit further, I am going to be launching after the new year, a monthly call that people can pay a subscription to be a part of. And each month we're going to have a 1 to 2 hour long call where we're just going to talk. There's going to be, you know, Q&A, and we're going to talk real estate development in general. And hopefully the opportunity would be for some more experienced people, myself and others, to answer people's questions and weigh in on their experience. And we all sort of, you know, iron sharpens iron. We all sort of get better at development. We'll call it a mastermind of sorts, right? If you want to take it a little further than that, I have a very, very thorough course called the Deal Architect course. It's all about how do you build a deal, a real estate development deal, from the ground up. This is very, very in-depth. It includes a lot of documents and things that I use, pro formas, etc. It includes actual phone calls and scripts for specific conversations with investors. It's extremely thorough, and it will take you, if you follow it, from no experience, no deals to getting your first deal done and beyond. So that's called Deal Architect, and it's at dealarchitect.org. Go check that out if you really want to dive into this thing. And lastly, I have started offering a mentorship program. There's a schedule and pay structure. All of that, you can go to my website, anchortn.com, and click on the Learn tab, and you can look at some of the details, get in touch with me, and figure out if one of those more in-depth programs is a good fit for you. Hey, also, if you're on social media, follow me on Instagram. That's where I'm most active. It's at Brian Bandas. And come over and say hi to me there. Stay tuned at the very end. Like I said, there's a bonus tip here, okay? We've gone through 4, I got 4 more, and then there's a bonus tip that has made me $20,000 by doing almost literally nothing. But before we get back to work, before we go back to the job site, you guys know this about me. Let me throw on my Bad Rad Dad shirt and let's go down and get sweaty. I like to break my day up with a workout, clears my head, gets the blood flowing. I just feel alive, I feel healthy. Let's go get sweaty, and then we'll get back to work. All right, guys, as you know, I like to hit the garage gym to get a little sweaty in the middle of the day, break up my work day, take care of my mind, take care of my body, take care of my spirit. By the way, this is one of, if not maybe my favorite Bad Rad Dad shirt. You can go to badraddad.store. If you're interested, it's fitness clothes for dads who care about fitness. So unfortunately, I'm nursing some shoulder pain, so I kind of have to go light. I'm gonna do some pull stuff. It's a pull day. I can't go too hardcore, but I'm gonna do some dumbbell rows, do do some pull-ups, and then to get my heart rate up, I'm just gonna do some intervals on the Echo bike to try to break a sweat and work on my cardio. Let's get to it. That was good. That was good. Good work. Take the time to get sweaty in your work day, and now let's go build some houses. All right, guys, we're back in the Basswood house. Listen, number 5, and I mentioned this in the last video, you need to know and understand and be prepared for the truth that you're not going to build as fast as your more experienced builders were building, right? You're new. There is a learning curve, and it's okay. It's just part of the process. You need to build that into your expectations, into your timeline, into your investor partners' expectations. Here's what that's gonna look like. Subs are gonna be less responsive to you than someone they've been working with for years, all right? As we mentioned before, the order of operations, there's a learning curve there, and you're gonna miss some things where, oh shoot, this should have already been done. I told my siding guys to get started, now they can't because I forgot something. The same thing's gonna happen with materials. You're gonna ask some guys to come out, they're gonna get here and they're gonna be like, where's the rolls of aluminum that we're gonna use for flashing? Oh crap, either they gotta come back tomorrow or I gotta run over and buy them. Either way, you're not gonna build as efficiently and as quickly as you're used to your experienced builders building for you. That's okay, just plan on the learning curve. Point number 6, similar to the last one, and again, mentioned in the previous video, you're not gonna build as cost effectively as the builders that are more experienced, and that's okay too. Again, you need to build that into your budget, you need to build it into your expectations and the expectations of your investor partners. What's really gonna happen is it takes time to find the most cost-effective, the highest value subcontractors. It takes time to find the highest value, for dollar materials and what works best for you. And it takes time to learn the order of operations and begin to minimize extra trips, change orders, repairs, things that people are having to redo because of your oversight. There's no way around it. It just takes time to do that. And you need to expect, okay, I'm gonna have a few builds that are a little bit rough in terms of monetary efficiency. That's just part of the learning curve. Point number 7, plan way ahead, way ahead. My first builds, I was flying by the seat of my pants, and it would be like, my electricians and mechanical and plumbing are finishing up their rough in, and at that moment I'd go, oh, okay, what's next? I should have been way, way ahead. I should have already planned out all my design, ordered as much as possible. Everybody and everything is just waiting for their turn instead of doing it sort of on the fly by the seat of my pants. Hey, lesson learned, but learned the expensive way, right? So plan way ahead, design out the whole project, choose your paint colors, choose your materials, start getting your bids from your subs month, 2, 3 months in advance of when they're gonna do their actual thing, so that when it's time, it's like, we're ready. I've already got a sub lined up. I already know what materials, I already ordered them. They're there, let's start. All right, item number 8, and I already sort of mentioned this. Take the time to do a ton of research on your first deals. Just plan on it, just suck it up and grind it out. Let me give you an example. I'm gonna take one line item, that's hardwood floors, and show you what a difference it makes to make those extra phone calls, to call around, to get referrals and figure out the best option. Option 1, I called a somewhat turnkey service, a little more of a consumer grade company, and they gave me a quote to put in all of this hardwood. Let's say it was around, hang on one second, Ihor, I'm gonna do some math. $2,000 square feet of hardwood, 2 times 4 plus 5, 9. Okay, So vendor number one was sort of a turnkey, like a consumer grade service, right? I call them and they give me a quote for 2,000 square feet of hardwood, sand and finish. It was gonna be about $30,000 for each house. Then I go and I source the materials and I ask some buddies, hey, where do you get your hardwood? And one guy says, hey, you know, if you go to this company, they sell red oak for really cheap. And then I find a subcontractor who do all the install, sand, finish, you know, stain, everything. For X amount of dollars, you know, per foot. The first quote is $30,000 a house. Doing it the second way, which took a lot of extra time, calling around, not my favorite kind of work, doing research basically. I was getting the hardwood for like $3 a foot, and I was getting the labor for $5 a foot. So now I'm paying $8 a foot total, $16,000, about half of what I was gonna pay. Across 2 houses, I just saved myself $30,000. So that's just one example of why you've got to take the time, especially early on, through your first, say, 1 to 5 builds. You've got to make those extra calls. You've got to keep pushing and keep asking, is there somebody who does this same service for a little bit cheaper? The reality is, okay, maybe I only save $500 on this line item or 1,000. But if I do that 20 times over a build, I'm saving $20,000. That's real money. That's a big deal. And if you save $20,000 across, let's say 10 houses that you build in a year, you just put $200,000 back in you and your investors' pockets. So all of a sudden, like that extra work and those phone calls and that research. Guys, I hope that those 8 tips are helpful to you. Now here is the bonus. It's so simple. If you're gonna be working as your own GC, you're gonna be running a lot of expenses through your business. You're buying hardwood flooring, you're buying materials, shingles, siding, you're buying all this stuff, right? Let's call it a couple $100,000 of materials on a house. Get a cash back card. Right now, I haven't touched it in a while. I've got $20,000 in cash just sitting there, cash rewards. When I say $20,000 extra for doing nothing, I mean literally, I just use that credit card. I got 20 grand sitting there waiting for me. So get a cash back card. And let me give you this one caveat because we've talked a lot about character on this channel and how important it is to be a certain kind of person because you're wanting investors and people to sort of buy into you. Here's a crucial decision. When I look and I say, oh, I can use the cash back card, and they go, okay, if you use the cash back card or if you use a credit card, it's an extra 3%, or you have these other options to pay. If I were to do that, I would be passing that fee along to my investors and basically stealing 3% from them. So some vendors will not charge extra. It's the same whether I use a credit card, a check, a debit card, whatever. On those, I use the credit card. I get the 3% because it doesn't cost my investors anything extra. When it does, I don't do it. Be that kind of person, have that kind of integrity, but that's your bonus. If you're gonna be a GC, you're gonna be running a lot of expenses. You can rack up some bonus cash. Hey guys, I really hope this has been helpful to you. Listen, as usual, if you're getting something out of this and you're becoming a better person, a better business person, a better entrepreneur, a better real estate investor, developer, then hey, hook me up with one of these and one of those and one of those. I'll see you next time.